It's almost Christmas, so I thought I'd wait in here, give my opinions on the matter. This video has been sparked by the recent calls to make Santa either a woman or gender neutral. This stems from deeper roots, I think, but dealing with that particular thing is not the purpose of this video. This video will consist of my thoughts on the gender neutral Santa debate, the poll that started it all, and misinformation in general. Finally, I want it bear in mind from all who would watch this that this is my opinion. I have every right to share it, just as everyone else does. I mean, not to offend anybody, and I ask for reasoned debate in the comments, if this becomes popular enough to warrant it, that is. There are dangers here of straying too far off topic into the issues surrounding the LGBTQ+ community, so I'll do my best to keep on track on this issue. A video or two on the LGBTQ+ community will come into existence at some point in this series, I'm sure. To start off, I want to take a look back to the origins of Father Christmas. As a character, he's based off Saint Nicholas, a 3rd century CE bishop in modern-day Turkey, based mostly around the ancient cities of Nicaea and Constantinople. These are Iznik and Istanbul, respectively, today. This man, now the patron saint of children in Christianity, would often be found in red robes giving gifts to children and the poor. One story goes that to prevent a parishioner selling his daughters into prostitution in order to pay for their lives, he secretly snuck in 3 bags of gold into the man's house. I think we can all agree, decent bloke. This man continued into legend in the Christian world and was popularised in the New World, particularly in North America as it is today, by Dutch settlers who told of Sinterklaas, Saint Nicholas. This eventually progressed to Santa Claus, which we now have thanks to the Americans' wonderful talent of butchering European languages. Now that we have that knowledge in our heads, time to talk about the origins of this particular issue. Earliest records I could find on this come from a 2015 YouTube video from Anomaly #MoreWomen. Yeah, they've got a hashtag in their channel name. This channel is apparently associated with a particular feminist movement calling for more women to be at the top. This particular topic is one to be addressed another time. All for it, but we'll deal with that later. It appears that they decided to ask a bunch of kids that if Santa was a woman, could she do the job? As in, could she deliver all the presents on Christmas Eve? The video showed that the overwhelming response from these kids was no, for reasons such as she'd get a headache, she'd get lost in the sky, and if she had a baby, she'd be distracted, and that would ruin Christmas. I'll paraphrase the last one a little bit to summarise it, but you get the idea. This video, for obvious reasons, went viral at the time and has some 113,000 views. Next along our timeline, we come to November and December of 2018. Graphic Spring, a design company which nobody had ever heard of before, put out a poll. The results of this poll were as follows. 10.6% believe that Santa should be female, and 17.2% believe that Santa should be gender neutral. Bear in mind that the rest of those people polled all thought he should remain male. When they published the poll, the internet went just a little bit fucking nuts. Everyone from Unilad to the BBC weighed in on this. BBC 3, mind you, but still the BBC. Unilad recognised that Santa Claus is based off a real person, who we've established was a nice guy. However, those at Unilad suggested that some people were feeling that the results of this poll were a threat to their very binary and secure ways of life. They also had some suggestions as to how a gender-neutral Christmas would be different, with changes like getting rid of the iconic white beard, changing the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer song to remove pronouns, which would suggest the reindeer's respective genders, etc. You know, other stuff like that. BBC 3 didn't really contribute much in their article, except for one quote which they had. They cited a certain Gina Batty, a gender identity coach. The article reads as follows. This shows that progress is happening around inclusion, and more people are challenging their perceptions and childhood conditioning, she says. Plus, she adds that a non-male Santa could be a good opportunity to teach kids about non-binary and trans identities. Let them know that anyone can be Santa, she says. With my niece and nephew, this is how I explained it to them. When we see Santa in stores, I tell them that he can't be everywhere talking to all the little children, so some Santas are male, some female, and some trans, and some we don't know, but they all act as Santa's messages. So according to Gina, having a range of different Santas could actually have a positive effect on kids, as well as being good for equal opportunities. Many other online outlets added their contributions to this shit show of a debate, and none really added anything at all, except more of the same. Twitter users, as usual, shared their opinion on the matter. One called for Santa to be changed to this, to be the gender-neutral name. Santa X? How would you pronounce that? It doesn't matter, but the point is, people are taking this seriously. Now we come to the multitude of issues with these sources. First, let's deal with the video from Anomaly #MoreWomen. These people clearly have an agenda, and while this in and of itself isn't an issue, their possible manipulation of information is an issue. This is of course not certain, but I reckon that during the editing of this video they chose to leave out any answers that didn't agree with their agenda. These answers also came from children, some of them really young kids as well, some could barely form a coherent sentence. I don't think most of the kids shown are old enough to form their own opinions, so can't actually give you proper answers, and are merely the products of basic societal training administered by teachers, parents, books, stuff like that. Now, the getting rid of this basic societal training is probably part of their agenda as well, and is the essence of their finishing message, but it is important to know that teaching kids how to define people is required for a functioning society. To know who is a man, who is a woman, who's in charge of them, stuff like that, these are all important for survival in a modern world on a fundamental level. To know who is a man, who is a woman, who's in charge of them, stuff like that, this has to be basic for kids to understand complex adult issues. If you start bringing in gender neutrality, the politics behind sexuality and gender identification, they become confused, and this is a serious issue that I feel isn't addressed enough. Having a confused future generation will mean that when they are the only ones making decisions, they'll be too distracted from actual world issues like global security threats, monetary policy and trade. Manipulation of information such as this is genius, but be careful of it because it encourages situations such as this one being addressed in this video. Next, we come to Uniland. So, I'm all for free speech, it's the essence of this video and this entire channel. But there is a point where voicing opinions becomes complete nonsense designed for clicks and ad revenue generation. It is important to know the source of your information, and the source in question is a site dedicated to random models and celebrities, a guy with 2 dicks, and questions nobody really wants answers to because they don't actually care. They took mostly misinformation at face value and didn't think to consider how it could be wrong or have a deeper meaning. Also, by their own logic, who's to say that a gender-neutral Santa couldn't have a big white beard? It appears that they're assuming a gender-neutral person's beard-growing capabilities. I won't back down from discrediting sources such as this, as I consider them dangerous to the future Western society. That's a whole different issue. BBC Three's edition of Gina Vatti was an interesting one to me. On a professional level, I have a degree of respect for her, assuming that Gina identifies as a her, as helping people come to terms with who they think they are is an admirable thing to do. However, I'm gonna have to disagree with her on her point about teaching kids about gender. As I said previously, kids need it simple, and at the end of the day, they don't really care on the whole because it doesn't concern them. It's only when parents with a twisted political agenda involve gender identification in their child's upbringing, like that case in Texas, that it becomes an issue for that kid. When issues of gender and the need for understanding arise, it's usually because puberty has hit that kid, and they're just struggling with who they are, which is perfectly normal. At this point, they have the capacity to question society and find answers out for themselves, see the debates put forward. Finally, she says that she explains to her niece and nephew that because one Santa can't be everywhere, that there are multiple that could be male, female, or trans, and they all act as Santa's messengers. I think we're all forgetting that Santa Claus is a fictional, mythical figure with no evidence to support him actually being real, so therefore there's no reason why he can't be everywhere all at once. I'll come to this in a minute, but my point is, why do people feel the need to put their beliefs about gender identification on some kids as fact? Unless it is fact, don't portray it as such. Funnily enough, that's at the root of this entire issue. My thoughts on this issue are quite conveniently reflected in an article on this topic by Junkie.com. They discredit the poll that started off this ridiculous train of events for much the same reasons as me. The data surrounding this poll is vague at best. Graphic Spring would only release that the poll participants were from the UK and US aged between 18 and 65. Junkie.com highlights that these participants could be from anywhere in the UK and US, which would dramatically alter the outcome of such a poll, as would the actual age of the participants. If, for example, the poll was overwhelmingly answered by left-leaning 20-somethings from LA and London, this would be dramatically different from a bunch of right-leaning 50-somethings from Missouri or Thanet. I believe this to be a cruel PR stunt, in agreement with those at Junkie.com. Graphic Spring, who nobody had ever heard of before, decided that they could pit factions on the internet against each other for their own gain. They are seen by those who would take this seriously as some kind of social justice gods now, and they will go to them for all of their graphic design needs. Manipulating data and those gullible enough on the internet are exactly the kinds of business practices that those on the left of politics, which many of those people identify with, I'm sure, wish to be rid of. But I digress, I don't want to politicize this necessarily. Finally, Santa's a fucking myth. He doesn't exist in real life. Rational people know this. Why do people even care about this shit? For those of you who have taken this to heart in favor of the gender-neutral Santa argument, I have to ask, why does having a male Santa, one which you and everyone else for many, many years have grown up with, offend you so much that you would want to change everything about it? Equal representation is one thing, but this is a single fictional character we're talking about here, and equal representation can only get you so far. In summary, I will adhere to my initial reaction of fuck off, what is it this time, and so I hereby declare this gender-neutral Santa issue bullshit. Once again, a reminder that this is my opinion and is not meant to cause offense or push down any particular views held by any individual. Freedom of expression is wrong, but there is a limit to how much I will tolerate, and if you choose to come after the jolly fellow that is Father Christmas, I will defend him. I'm going to leave you with this tweet from @DadCactus on Twitter with his thoughts on the issue. The links to the websites referenced here will all be in the description. Taking my lead from Jim Jeffries, I think we can all do better. Thank you for watching.